Talk 6, Poverty Alleviation and a Common Prosperity for All. Dr. Zhang, as we all know, poverty alleviation has been a huge task that CPC undertakes. And as we all know, CPC has made great achievement in the past few years in talking about the alleviation of poverty. And in the 20th National Congress of CPC, when we talk about the Chinese modernization and the common prosperity for all has been a very key feature for the Chinese modernization. Could you elaborate on that?
Very interesting and important question. First of all, I would like to point to the reasons why China waged this battle against poverty.
Oh, it's a battle.
Right, it is a battle. And we won that battle.
Okay.
Now, the Chinese culture, traditional Chinese culture, has always been opposing polarization between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
And there was always this dream, there has been, and still is, this dream of building a society, first of building a moderately prosperous society for all, and then ultimately to build a society of great harmony.
Oh, 小康大同.
That's right. And these two types of society are actually very similar to the socialist society in terms of the basic principles and the ultimate goal.
It could be regarded as kind of Chinese traditional interpretation about socialism.
I guess you can say that.
Okay.
At least we can conclude that the Chinese culture has a lot of things that are in line with the basic ideas of socialism.
Well, you mentioned the socialism. Yeah, as we all know, according to the founder of Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics, Deng Xiaoping, and he said poverty is not socialism, right? And could you elaborate on this point?
Before interpreting this phrase directly, I would like to point to some ideas proposed by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a very famous French philosopher in the 18th century.
Yeah.
Now, in his time, he was already responding to and criticizing the results of modernity in Europe. Now, to his mind, the society back then, the European society back then, was a kind of society based on the principle of self-interest or the maximization of personal gains.
Yeah.
It was a society that would regard the self-interest, the personal gains as the fundamental moral principle. Now, Rousseau lamented that in such a society, the interpersonal relationship cannot but be confrontational. People were in a kind of state of war of everyone against everyone, to quote Hobbes.
Yeah,
another
the French,
political thinker.
The British philosopher.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, such a society cannot but be an unequal society.
Oh, yes. In his masterpiece, he argues the origin of social poverty and social inequality. And obviously, he argues that society based on competition, society based on the principle that the maximum of the self-interest is always actually in line with the society. People are involved in the kind of confrontational relationship with each other.
And a competition with each other.
In this sense, he says, the social equality would be always actually a random dream, right?
That's right. So poverty is not socialism, but we can interpret this phrase from the perspective of socialism as a response to the results of modern capitalism, especially at the early periods. That is, poverty can be understood as the polarization between the rich and the poor. Socialism aims at eliminating this polarization.
So the conclusion is very natural. The alleviation of poverty is a natural outcome of socialism.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, not just the alleviation of poverty itself, but the alleviation of the gap between the interest and between the material abundance, the material living standards of different social groups.
Okay. So talking about the Chinese battle against poverty, and could you elaborate on how and in what ways Chinese government has been so successful in fighting against poverty?
Great question, and I guess I can give you a long list of the reasons, but I would like to emphasize three of them. First, I think most importantly, there is this strong leadership of the Communist Party of China. And under the leadership of the CPC, the advantages of socialism with Chinese characteristics have been maximized and put into efforts and put into practice. That is, with the socialism of Chinese characteristics, with the leadership of CPC, China can coordinate and organize and mobilize necessary material and human resources and invest these resources in the areas that are in need of them to alleviate the poverty.
You mean the leadership of CPC is such a very key factor?
It's a key factor of modernization. I would say it's a defining feature, one of the defining features of Chinese modernization, and one of the essential requirements. We will come back to this theme again and again. And then there's a second reason which can be found within, again, defined traditional Chinese culture. I mean, as widely known, the Chinese people is a very industrious people. Chinese nation is an industrious nation. We have treasured and valued the virtue of being industrious, of improving your living standards through hard work.
Yeah, because in our tradition, there's a lot of saying about that. Or as we have talked about, we emphasize the importance of daily life, and we build our culture, our dream on the prosperity of social life.
Right. And then lastly, again, I would say this is also a feature of Chinese culture. We Chinese people emphasize the value of helping each other, of mutual aid. I mean, of course, the battle against poverty is a cause led by the CPC and organized by the central government, but also it is a common cause for the entire Chinese nation. Ordinary Chinese people have also participated in this cause. Let me give you an example. I know a lot of Chinese consumers would intentionally buy the agricultural produce from the poor rural areas.
These products are labeled with the kind of very certain label to demonstrate that these products actually from the poor areas.
That's right. In this way, these areas can be helped in developing the local economy.
Oh yes, that's very interesting culture.
Right. A very good example can be found within my own life.
Yeah.
You see, Fudan University, the institution I work in, has this cooperational relationship with a backward county, Yongping County, in Yunnan Province.
Yeah.
The university would help the county to develop the local economy and local education, medical care, technology, etc.
Yeah. I know here is the same story at the Shanghai International Studies University. Actually, we provide a handful of opportunities for our target areas to promote their products, the local products in the market. And also we provide a lot of training, foreign language teaching training programs for their local teachers to improve their teaching capacity. So that is really a very, very effective and efficient relationship in terms of cooperation.
Right. So the cause of the battle against poverty is a common cause. And the result, prosperity, economic prosperity, is also the common prosperity for all Chinese people.
Definitely. Oh, yes. And as we all know, in Chinese society, we have successfully eliminated the absolute poverty. So what are the further steps we're going to take in terms of the battle against poverty?
Right. Again, we have won the battle, but we will not stop there. Poverty alleviation is a long-term cause. Many people living in poor areas have got rid of absolute poverty, as you have pointed out. But still, there's the possibility of returning to the state of being poor.
Yeah.
So the Chinese government is continuously giving efforts, providing support for people in these areas.
So it's a sustainable mode.
Right, in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Poverty is going to be eliminated with long-term planning and in a sustainable way. Also, it is worth mentioning that the Chinese government emphasizes the importance of not only helping the poor people to get rid of the poverty with the economic help, but to stimulate their inner spiritual motivation to stay out of poverty.
Yeah, as we said, instead of giving them fish, You should teach them how to fish.
Exactly. And you should encourage them to learn how to fish.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Right.
And as we know that the Chinese government has achieved such a great success in terms of the alleviation of poverty, and actually, according to United Nations, there's a very certain, well-defined target for the United Nations for the globally to alleviate poverty. So could you elaborate on the point, and to what degree, what is the world's significance for China's cause on the battle against poverty?
Right. China is a large country, a very important one in the world. So everything it does would more or less in this way or that way has repercussions or influences over the world.
We are a very, very populous nation.
Right. That is the thing that I want to point out first. We all know that China has a very large population, but we should also know the people that have successfully got rid of the absolute poverty are also numerous. Roughly speaking, about 100 million people living in the poor rural areas in China.
Yeah, so that's why China is still a developing country.
Exactly. But the point is, by helping such a large population or such a large portion of population to get rid of the absolute poverty, China is already doing a lot to contribute to the global cause of poverty alleviation.
Yes, I know. There's a lot of programs actually adopted by the central government and the local government to promote the alleviation of poverty in the world, actually.
Right. And China's success is actually setting an example, or is contributing the Chinese insight into the problem of poverty alleviation. For example, the UN Development Program Director General has spoken highly of China's efforts in thinking about poverty alleviation. For example, China is using digital technologies.
Digital technology.
Right, to help the poor people to develop the local economies. Just now I mentioned that a lot of Chinese consumers would buy the products from the poor areas. Now in China, you can do this very easily. Open your mobile phone, find one of the popular apps that you like, and place your order, just a few clicks, and then you are helping, you're contributing to poverty alleviation.
So just a few clicks away.
Right.
And that's quite very, very interesting. So actually talking about the technological perspective, and also we could talk about economical perspective. So what do you think of the significance of poverty alleviation in terms of the economic prosperity?
Right. Economically, again, we have to look at the sheer size of the population in China that has got rid of absolute poverty. Roughly speaking, 100 million people have got rid of absolute poverty. This means these people would be capable of consuming and producing, not just for the Chinese market, but for the entire global market.
It's a growing group of consumers in this sense.
Right. It definitely would contribute to the recovery of the world economy.
Oh, you mean for the economic development in the world? Yes, as is frequently mentioned, China has an irreplaceably huge market for the world's economy. And we have a growing group of consumers that are ready to take the road to modernization.
Right.
So we can draw the conclusion that China has been playing a more and more important role in the international development, and also China making its unique contribution for the world's economic prosperity in the future.
Right, by doing many things, including poverty alleviation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.